This is Christy from Digital Scrapbooking Classes with a tutorial for you on how to add elements to your digital scrapbooking layout. This is a layout I have been working on in Affinity Photo of a cooking project that my daughter and I did. And I would like to add a couple elements right here to the center of the layout. So the way I set up my screen is I open Affinity and have it filling most of the screen, but then I also leave room on the screen for the file where the different papers and elements are. That way, what I can do is I can just drag things right from the file onto the layout and keep them easily viewable at all times. So this is the layout I have been working on. You can see in the layers palette that I've added a bunch of different things. And I would like the elements that I add here to be right on top of everything else. So I'm going to go over to my layers palette and click on the top layer. And then I'm going to go over to the file where the elements are, and I'm going to click and drag them and just drop them onto the layout. And I'm first going to go ahead and add all three of the pieces that I want. And then I'm going to come back over here to Affinity and I'm going to choose the Move tool. And I'm going to move the different pieces and resize them the way I want them. So this is the knife and the spoon, and I actually want my spoon to be on top of the knife. So the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to come over to the Layers palette, and I'm going to click and hold on the knife layer and drag it down underneath the spoon. Now, I want to be careful that it's not over to the right, this blue bar. I want to make sure that the blue bar goes all the way over to the left, and when I let go, it's going to move that knife under the spoon layer in the Layers palette, and you'll notice that it did that exact same thing on the actual layout. The knife is now under the spoon. Now what I want to do is rotate each of them a little bit. So I have the knife selected. You can see the blue lines and dots around that. And you'll notice the little white dot that is up at the top, a little bit raised up. When I hover my mouse over that, it turns into a double arrow. Clicking and holding my mouse down and dragging it will allow me to rotate the knife. So I'm going to rotate the knife a little bit this way. And then I'm going to click on the spoon and do the same thing but rotate it that way. Now, I would like to move them so that they are over top of each other like that. And I'm going to add the ribbon, so I'm going to click and drag on the ribbon so that it goes right over and looks like it's kind of holding the two of them tied together. This ribbon's a little bit bigger than I want compared to the spoon and the knife. So I'm going to go ahead and click on it till those blue lines and dots are around it. Go to one of the corners and click and drag until I get it to be about the right proportion to the spoon and the knife that I want. Now, looking at this whole layout, the other thing I want to do is I want the whole trio, the knife, the spoon, and the ribbon, to be smaller so it fits into this spot a little bit better. So there are a couple ways you can select all three items. You can click on one on the layout, hold your Shift key down and click on another one. Now you can see it's got both of those selected. And when I click on the knife, try again, knife and spoon, I can select them that way. I can also do the same thing in the Layers palette over on the right side. If I click on the first one and hold the Command key down, or probably the Control key on a Windows, and click on each of them, it will select those. Or because I have them all stacked right on top of each other, there's a shortcut. If I click on the very top one, hold the Shift key down and click on the bottom of the three, it will select all three of them together. You'll notice on the layout that the lines go around each of the items, but that my dots are now around a unified selection of each of those. So if I click on one of the corners and I go to drag it, I can resize it. But because I have multiple layers selected, here's what I have been noticing in Affinity. When I go to resize it, I can change the proportions. That was not something I could do when I clicked on the corner of the bow, and it's not something that I want to do when I am resizing elements. I want to keep the proportions the same. So the trick is that while you have the corners selected, hold the Shift key down on your keyboard, and now when you go to resize it, it will keep the proportions the same. So I'm going to resize it to be about the way that I want it. And now I can also rotate and move them while they are all selected together. And when I get it just the way I want it, I can click off of that clump or unclick on any other layer in the layers palette and do that. Now one other thing is I have this little brad that is sitting underneath the flower there, and one of them is underneath here, and I would like to add a third one underneath here. So I'm going to go over to the layers palette and click on one of those brads, and then I'm going to go up to Layer, Duplicate. And that will duplicate it, and then when I click and drag it, it will come over here, and it's already in a layer below the spoon and knife, so it hid under there just like I wanted. If it wasn't, remember, I can click and drag it and move it to a different order on the layers palette. If I wanted to put it in front of the bow, or if I wanted it behind the bow but on top of the spoon, I can click and drag it around in the layers palette. In another tutorial, I will teach you how to add shadows to your elements, but I went ahead and did that on mine, and this is my final layout. Like the way it turned out. To create this, I used a digital press collab kit called Gingham Style, as well as a template from Anita Designs from her May 2019 collection. Thanks so much for watching. Hope you enjoy the layout and have fun working with elements on your own. For more digital scrapbooking tutorials, visit Digital Scrapbooking Classes on Facebook or YouTube.